chose SaltStack primarily to fix a lot of problems in our environment. We're a Windows shop, completely deployed inside the cloud, and with the scale that we were going to be faced with, we needed something that could actually kind of wrangle that in. And Salt was one of the very few orchestration engines out there that could actually handle Windows to the degree that we needed to.
I love SaltStack because it's active and reactive. It's not a passive way to manage my infrastructure. It's something that I don't have to set something, hope that it works, and then come back later and find out if it did or not, like some of the other tools. It is active. I am in my infrastructure, manipulating it in the same kind of way that I'm used to manipulating individual machines, except for I'm working at scale. And I think that's really powerful.
There's a real learning curve with some of these technologies, and the consensus was that using Salt was much more simple, easy to get going, and reduce that learning curve from sort of getting to implementation to actually using the platform and getting business value.
The things that hooked me are really how extensible the Python API was and SaltStack the product was. And then once I got involved, the community hooked me even more. They're open, they're inviting, they're easy to talk to, they're easy to work with. You get really senior people that are contributing and helping. I've even seen the CTO commenting on pull requests in the GitHub repository for SaltStack. That to me is what makes SaltStack really special.
I've been working with Salt for like almost 4 years now, and they've listened to the challenges, and that's huge. You know, the product on itself, on its own, does a great job, but the fact they got a great company behind it has been a huge attribute to it as well.
We have been one of the early adapters of SaltStack, and we have been using SaltStack for the last 7 years. We are at a scale of like 150K nodes where we are using Salt, and we use pretty much for all our automation tasks.
Salt is the only system automation tool that is this extensive. Extensibility is huge when you get to an enterprise scale, and there's nothing else like SaltStack.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage co-founder and CEO of SaltStack, Marc Chen.
Good morning. It's great to see all of you out here again in Salt Lake City. Thanks for coming. Here we are. It's another SaltConf, SaltConf19. It's really amazing for us to be here and to think about what it has taken for us to get to this point. I was reflecting earlier in the week about 6 years ago. We were sitting in a small office just south of this location, and we had about a dozen employees in the company at the time. And we hatched this idea of creating an annual user conference, and so SaltConf was born. We wanted to create a venue and a forum here where we could bring all of our customers and our community members together. We wanted to create a forum of learning, and so SaltConf was born. We're now in our 6th year, and we've sincerely appreciated all of the support that we've received from all of you throughout that time. Now, no two SaltConfs have ever been the same. Each year's conference has been slightly different from the next, and we've always tried to improve it from year to year. In 2013, we were little more than a community of users, contributors, configuration, and automation enthusiasts. Now, today, the Salt community consists of many tens of thousands of users on a global basis. It's become quite an impressive movement throughout the world. Let's give ourselves a hand for that. Today we're doing something a little bit different, and in subsequent years, you'll find that the format of SaltConf will change. Today, in this general session, and any subsequent breakout sessions, you'll find that the SaltConf theme and the message is focused on community. And so today, you'll see that play out. The messages, the breakouts, the discussions that'll take place are in honor of you. We've got a vibrant and an open source community, and we wanted to make sure that we underscored that through this asset. And tomorrow, the breakout sessions and the general session will shift a bit with a focus on security operations. SecOps Days Salt Lake City will be co-hosted right here at SaltConf19 with a focus on dedicating our tracks to the speakers and the work of securing IT. All SaltConf attendees will have free access to the SecOps Days agendas, so please join us for that as well tomorrow afternoon. Now, going forward, SecOps Days will be a series of regionally based events that are geared towards IT and security professionals with an interest in using SaltStack solutions to solve the work of securing IT. Now, as you know, there's a tremendous amount of work to be done in this realm here, and SaltStack has really asserted a leadership position in delivering solutions that help these professionals to combine the work of IT and security operations. We'll share more detail about SecOps Days tomorrow. So as we open up SaltConf19, let me take a quick moment to again thank you for making this event possible. And of course, we could not put on an event without our wonderful sponsors and our partners who are here with us today. Their names are recognized here up on these slides. So please make sure to take a moment to visit their booths, both today and tomorrow, and to let them know how much they're appreciated. With that, I'm going to take this time to welcome to the stage our Senior Vice President of Engineering, Moe Abdula, who will kick off the rest of this morning's session from an engineering standpoint. Moe?
Good morning. Thank you, Mark. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with the team, and even a bigger honor to finally be inducted into the community. I should actually start by saying that it was in my prior job, about 4 years ago or so, that I first experienced Salt. At that time, the team and I were tasked with the mission of delivering large-scale global virtual environments, mainly VMware-based, but also OpenStack, along with monitoring, backup, and so on and so forth. And as you can imagine, very quickly, we realized with such a big operation, we needed some help. We needed to standardize, and we needed to automate. And like all good engineering teams, of course, we tried to do it on our own. And that didn't work out for us. So very quickly, we went on a venture to try and understand what was out there. And it really didn't take long for us to zero in on SaltStack. Through the project Salt, we saw a platform that really was very capable, feature, complete, and rich. In fact, at that time, the team and I were talking about not only the use cases we could solve with Salt, but also some use cases that we had not imagined. But it was not the code that swayed us to Salt. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to say the code is not great. As I said earlier, the project is wonderful. The code was of great quality. It was the fact that we did not want to be left with a platform that was stagnant, one that was held hostage by old features. But instead, we wanted to be part of a community. We wanted to be part of a project in which when we applied our talent, we could engage with other talented engineers and extend the platform, together solve very complicated problems. It was that was the difference maker for why we went with Salt. And here I am today, very honorable position to actually reflect on our community. The community was the secret. So if we look at Salt through the lens of time, it was in this decade that Salt was born and Salt grew. And it's not surprising to me at all that right earlier in the summer that we were named as part of the top 50 projects out of 96 million. And you don't get there without the contributions of amazing people, passionate, enthusiastic, as Marc said. 3,000 contributors extended the platform. So much richness, whether it was networking, whether it was operating system-oriented enhancements, scalability, or even getting the platform to support new use cases like IoT. It was the community that extended this project beyond our imagination. And in fact, this fall, Forrester recognized in their infrastructure automation wave SaltStack to be one amongst the top players. Just think about that for a moment. This is our project, built by all of us, here in the room and around the world. We're big in our heart and enthusiasm, but certainly to be right up there with the giants of the industry is an amazing accomplishment. And that happens again through you. So thank you. But, and this is another but, the best form of recognition is not necessarily the awards or the waves, but it's when your own platform delivers value and is used. With 3.5 million downloads a month, averaging 5,000 a day, and now spreading across 178 countries, huge growth last year, many more people are appreciating and gaining value out of Salt. And that, my friends, is what I believe to be the biggest recognition of all. So thank you for that. So much of this is what I call a rear view mirror. It's the current decade. You know, you look at the awards, the recognition, and it's really all about what we accomplished thus far. But for any platform to deliver on its promise, to endure, it must evolve, it must innovate, it must solve not just today's problems, but tomorrow's. And to tell us more about that, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome the man that started all of this, co-founder and CTO of SaltStack, Tom Hatch.
Thank you all for coming out today. I cannot tell you how much I love to see a full room. I've already seen and shaken the hands of many old friends and many new friends as well. It is just such a pleasure to be able to have all of us come together for this conference. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is a number of things, but I want to talk about the fact that we have had a decade of disruption in infrastructure. More new technologies have come out than I think any of us really could have guessed. And subsequently, we've had a transformation in how infrastructures are managed. And we've created a complexity chasm. And this is something that I think a lot of us are feeling. Because when I say IT budgets, I could really say IT resources. There aren't enough of us to do all this work. And so we use automation to fill in this gap. SaltStack over the last decade has worked very hard with all of us together to create automation tools that are able to fill this gap. Now, in looking at this particular slide, I thought about naming a bunch of individuals who have helped over the years, but I realized that all of the individuals I wanted to name would rather me emphasize the contributions that everyone has made in allowing us to keep up with and continually transform the software inside of Salt to deal with and march towards these changes in infrastructure management. And the end result is that we created an incredible platform. We created a platform that is able to solve a vast array of the problems and situations and automation needs which have arisen in this last decade. But what are we going to do from here? We have new challenges as really the fabric of the infrastructures that we deal with continues to change. And so I've spent a lot of time reflecting on this over the last few years. And I realized something that really bothered me. And it was typified in an interview with Linus Torvalds recently, where he was asked, "Are you still a software developer?" And he said, "No, I'm not a software developer anymore." He said, "My job is to tell people no." And then he said, "And I'm okay with that. That's just where I am. And that's what I have to do to keep the Linux kernel code clean, is to tell people no." This happens to so many great innovators as they get consumed by their creation. And it got to the point where, personally, it became difficult for me to continue to innovate. As I looked at the changes that were coming out, the maintenance of the platform became more and more overwhelming and harder for me to deliver new ideas, almost to the extent that a few years ago, to be honest, when I came out with new features, I would often be criticized. And I thought, well, this is odd. I'm trying to make things better. And so I thought on this a great deal. I thought on what are the things inside of Salt that make it great, that make it work really well? And how can I take those aspects of Salt and make it more pliable and more extensible so that we can continue to innovate while having a more successful open source community? And I thought, what are the most successful implementations of open source software out there? What are the implementations of open source software that drive innovation and progress the furthest? And I came back to thinking that it's operating systems, because anybody can make a package and extend an operating system. It's things like programming languages. Anybody can make a library for Python. And I thought, how can I take these concepts and build them directly into how we create individual pieces of software? And so I came up with POP. I took the concept of the Salt loader, where we can create plugins for Salt, and I decided, what if that was a standalone thing? And so I made a standalone version, and then I threw that away, and I made another one, and I threw that away, until I got to my 5th iteration and realized that I'd really created a new programming paradigm that took the benefits of object-oriented and functional and flow styles and made it so that we could create software which is entirely composed of a pluggable ecosystem and software that can plug into each other, inspired by the work that we've put into Salt. And so I'm excited to announce POP today, but I'm also very excited to announce a number of projects that I've already begun working on with POP that can extend and enhance our experience with Salt. The first one that I want to talk to is Heist. I'm glad I got a chuckle there. This is my favorite name I've ever given a project. As you may have guessed, it's been a little controversial in the office, but I won this one. Heist uses Python 3 and async IO, and it's built on POP, so it's 100% pluggable, and is able to create network tunnels to send dissolvable agents, in this case Salt minions, to target systems over things like an SSH tunnel, and then be able to manage that system entirely over that SSH tunnel with the full speed of Salt, and then tear it down and completely remove any trace of that agent. And in creating this system, I've also created something called Salt Bin, which allows you to have all of Salt, including Python, in one portable binary, making it easier than ever to be able to deploy Salt minions without having to go through any installation process for it. Now, we're not getting rid of the way in which we currently distribute the minion, but we have an additional way to make it even easier to get Salt into people's hands. So, after Heist, there's another project built on POP that's completely pluggable called Umbra. Umbra is a system which attaches to a data stream, in this case the event bus, manages that data stream, and then sends it into a machine learning model, and then gives us data out of the machine learning model that we care about. So for instance, anomalies. And so using Umbra, we can attach it to an event bus, listen to events that are coming through, and find things that give us pause and give us a reason to think, I should look at that. This is our first foray, in a big way, into AI and ML operations. Finally, the last project that I want to talk to you about is something called ITEM. Now, with POP, I took the plugin system of Salt and said, what would this look like as a standalone, reusable system? With ITEM, I said, what would it look like if I took the state system inside of Salt, Salt's configuration management engine, and said, wouldn't this be more powerful if it was abstracted just as a language? And so I built that out on top of POP. For the most part, I copied the compile process, but I completely rewrote the state runtime to be a portable language system, and again, to be completely pluggable. So that it's so pluggable that if you wanted to add a new require-like statement, a new requisite to ITEM, you can do it with a plugin which only takes a few lines of code. And then the other thing, and this is where one of the big benefits that tie back into what I was saying about curating and saying no to pull requests. ITEM is built on POP, which means that if you want to extend it, you can do it completely independently. And so we already have initial support for managing the Azure cloud implemented on ITEM. But that code is in a completely separate repository, completely independently tested and maintained, which means that it can be developed much more quickly. And then all they need to do is be installed side by side. POP detects that additional software for ITEM is available and makes it instantly available for the execution of the language. And so we've been experimenting with the Cloud Working Group on saying, is this a better way for us to evolve Salt Cloud as we move forward? And so I'm very, very excited to be able to announce these projects. I've been working on these slowly for quite some time and ideating on what they should look like. And yes, these are open source projects. You can download them now. They're out and available on GitHub and PyPy today. Now, we have made huge strides into the security space over the last year. This has been one of the most exciting things for me personally, for SaltStack, the company. Because we've been able to take the power of Salt and solve a problem that we discovered many of you did not want to solve on your own. And as we investigated this problem, we understood why. Dealing with security operations can be slow, it can be tedious, it can be difficult, and oftentimes it doesn't line up exactly with what an operations team wants to spend their time doing. And so this spring we introduced our SecOps compliance product. And since then we've added significant amounts of security content and automation so that we can assist infrastructures in automating away these security issues at a more rapid pace. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be presenting at our first big SecOps Days event. And we will be talking about the next big SecOps product, which we have just released, that we've just put into our enterprise platform, which extends our capability and our ability to deliver secure infrastructure at a significantly faster pace than ever before. Together, my anticipation is that we can take the power that we have inside of Salt and make it even more flexible, even more dynamic to specifically solve the problems which we have coming down the pipe. I'm excited about these 4 new projects, but I'm also excited to say that more will be coming as we continue to work towards solving the complex problems of infrastructure that don't necessarily fall into the bucket that SALT has already abstracted. As we work towards taking the strength of SALT and abstracting it and modernizing it in a way that can be applied to the litany of new problems that we have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. Are we excited? Are we excited? Yes. It is really always energizing and exciting to look forward to the future. But it's even more exciting when you know that the future is not too far-fetched, but rather around the corner, that we can all get our hands around these projects, start to innovate, extend the platform, and deliver more. But, this is our word. We have a lot of buts today. But the best of circumstances are not just ones that are grounded in innovation that is yet to realize value, but also in stories we hear around how people have been able to accomplish a lot with what we have out there. In our next segment, we will be talking about the use of SALT, not in the context of just the beginnings of the journey, but as the platform matured and scaled. Our next section will cover how SALT has been in action when you have to scale your deployments at large, thousands of regions across the globe. Please welcome to stage my friends and colleagues, Brian and Darrin.
Moe, how are you?
Hey, Darrin. Good to see you. So, Brian, I'm not going to do the introduction for you. You're going to share it in a minute. You lead the networking group in IBM Cloud. Clearly, IBM Cloud, large deployments at scale. There isn't, I think, a country in the world in which we don't have some presence. Tell us a little bit more about the role that you've seen for automation in creating IBM Cloud, supporting IBM Cloud.
Yeah, sure, Moe. I'm happy to do that. Thank you. Before I begin, can I make one quick comment?
Please.
I'm going to need Tom to show up and tell the IBM Cloud CISO why we're installing something called Heist. So I'll invite Tom to stop by and tell him why we're doing that. So yeah, I'll introduce you and then I'm going to run away. So let me get to a quick description of IBM Cloud. So we have roughly 80,000 network devices spread globally, almost 80 POPs and DCs spread globally. This diagram we update it all the time, and it's already out of date. So it's constantly changing. Roughly, what do we have, Darrin? A little bit less than 50,000 network devices are Arista.
Yep.
So quite a few devices in the network. And through acquisitions, whether it's the Planet or SoftLayer, we have lots of different topologies. Architectures are very different, everything from leaf-spine to some of the older technologies that still exist inside of IBM Cloud. And along with those comes a litany of control planes, including ones that want to program the underlay directly, which is very, very difficult to deal with. And then on top of that, we're trying to support thousands and thousands of different services. You think about IaaS in general, everything from bare metal and those types of things moving up into the PaaS layers and SaaS products that IBM Cloud delivers. It's just thousands and thousands. There are over 2,000 Watson services, as an example, that are delivered across the IBM Cloud. Okay, so why automation? So I started at IBM Cloud a little over 2 years ago, and last year, one of my managers, we were talking about technical debt in general, and I said, look, why don't we do this? Why don't you take some time with some of the people on the team and figure out what are we looking at in terms of technical debt? Like quantify it. Let's get down to how much technical debt we actually have. And so he did the calculations, and they looked at all the work that we needed to do to get the network where we thought it needed to be, and we calculated 8.5 years of technical debt. That's given current staff, if we did nothing else but worked on technical debt, that's how long it would take us to get completely caught up. So obviously, we're running to automation as fast as we can get there. In addition, by the way, this is roughly 4 of the 100 different use cases we have for automation. So this is just a very top portion of this. On top of the technical debt, there are too many people that have direct access to the underlay, too many people that have admin privileges to the network. There's lots of engineers on the team that I trust and we trust, but there's too many people that have access. And then, our ability to respond. By the way, quick shout out, Steven's over here somewhere, 2:15 tomorrow afternoon. He's going to be talking about IBM Cloud and what he's doing specifically. Fantastic work for our team with vulnerabilities and compliance. So make sure you attend that session. But being able to respond when let's say we had a problem, we'd never have a problem with Arista, Darrin, I'm not saying that. But if we did, right, the ability to go attack 50,000, and we, like all very good network engineers, we have a ton of them that are very, very good at scripting, but we want to do it in a very controlled and repeatable fashion. So our ability to get to, any sort of vulnerability that's on the network, how some of them are very large, some are very small, some of them you can do with attestations or other types of mechanisms, but sometimes you actually have to touch the device, and so we need to be able to respond to that as quickly as possible.
So, Darrin, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
I just heard Brian mention 50,000 Arista devices out of the 80,000 or so. Very large deployment. Obviously, the network has always underpinned any cloud.
Right.
Can you share the same perspective that Brian did around the role of automation?
Sure.
How did you see Salt and Arista come together to solve some of these challenges?
Yeah. So I think it's, when you think about 40,000 devices, there's 40,000 opportunities for things to go wrong or right. And if we look at networking really over the last 40 years, and this is Ken Duda, our CTO and founders, there's really 3 different planes, like the physical devices, you have the 3 planes, right? The control plane, the data plane, and then the management plane, and then you have the human operators, right? And so we got to figure out how to deal with this from a networking standpoint, and at 40,000 devices, we really have a different problem. Now, on the data plane and the control plane, we've done pretty good as an industry. Frankly, we've built fairly interoperable protocols. Most devices work well together, and you can kind of build them out, right? And IBM Cloud is a good example of that, as are any of the major cloud players. They all have multi-vendors in their environments. But in the management plane, the industry has really failed us. And if you think about it from over this time, there's not been one easy way to interface from a management plane, right? So it just doesn't exist. And then, so people roll their own, and I think IBM has even done that. They kind of rolled their own to be able to deal with those inconsistencies. And many just do without. Right? And they just live with the world the way it is. And it's just not a good thing. And so this is where Arista entered the market. We built something called EOS, the Extensible Operating System. And the idea of working with Salt is, much like Salt, we wanted to be this open operating system that others could build capabilities on top of. And that was the whole premise behind it. And we've been doing that for a number of years and have had great success in doing it. And so we do that by one way, by having an unmodified Linux kernel that then people can plug into very easily. And so today we implement that with a proxy minion, for those of you that are dealing with EOS. And at 40,000 devices, a proxy minion just didn't scale, right? I think we tried this in the IBM environment, and we just shook our head every day. We tried to deal with it. And so we knew that wasn't going to work, and it gave us kind of a side piece of how we dealt with the CLI integration. And so we're happy to announce today that working with Salt and IBM Cloud, that Arista is delivering a native minion on EOS. So now you'll be able to have an extension, again, back to that extendable operating system. You'll have an extension you can load on EOS to give you access to EOS in ways that you didn't have before. And also to allow the scale. And this is where we're expecting it with IBM Cloud to see it on a much greater scale than what we've been able to do in the past. And so we're really, really pleased, and it's been a great collaboration with SALT and a great collaboration with the community as a whole to deliver that functionality.
Thank you. So it seems like we solved all the problems. That's it. We can all go home. Yeah. There's a native minion.
Nothing left to do.
Nothing left to do. And I'm sure that's not the case. Can you tell us a little bit what's next, and how are you thinking of extending the work that we jointly did together and the SALT platform?
Yeah. So like Darrin said, the move from proxy minions to native minions is not just big for us in terms of scale. There's lots of other things that we're thinking about in terms of if you have something that's sitting on the device, it opens up a whole new world to what you can actually do on that device. So you're not, the beaconing or anything that has to happen via an SSH tunnel or something like that. You no longer have to do that. You can think about streaming some of that information directly off of the device. And then also, we're looking at, because of, everybody's bringing an SDN to the IBM Cloud network, we're creating an abstraction layer for the underlay. So anybody wants to talk to the underlay, here's your API, have at it. Quit talking to the devices natively and directly. And then on top of that, we've been working with, I'm grateful that Tom's thinking about AI. We're talking with and been working with some internal IBM research teams. There's obviously a lot of power inside of IBM when it comes to AI. We're not sticking the quantum computer on network just yet, but we're talking with Dr. John Carter and some other folks inside of IBM about the use of AI inside of the network. So if you can think about some of the things that, if you can teach the device to react to certain conditions where you don't even have to be reactive to those types of things, that's where we really want to get to, is start teaching the devices how to react to certain conditions. So not just, hey, I'm running out of TCAM space, or I'm running out of memory CPU or something like that, or route scale, or some of the other types of things that we deal with in the network, but anomalous types of events. So I like the what Tom was talking about. Tell me when something is going to happen in a month and a half, right? Or 3 weeks, or whatever. Right. Let's stop being reactive. Let's start being proactive in the network.
Thank you, Brian. That's amazing. So I think we've heard the story. 80,000 deployment around the world, flexible architectures, quickly and easily extended, and the reality of how much of what's coming next is really going to solve not just the problems of today, but also help operations teams, developers get into that notion of proactive DevOps, proactive DevSecOps. With that, thank you very much, Brian, and thank you very much, Darrin. Really appreciate it. So amazing prospects, a lot of work ahead. And I think part of what I think of when I think about SALT in action isn't just the amazing realization of the platform itself, but frankly how quickly we were able to extend the platform itself. Through many of the open source contributions, we were taking the native minion and delivered it together with the great work that Arista and team described. Behind all of this is one force, and that force is the community. Today, everything that you've heard has been delivered through the innovations and amazing contributions that every one of us has put into this project. You have the chance through the conference to actually further contribute, extend, collaborate, and connect. And it is my pleasure to share with you that many of the work group leaders, the folks behind the scenes who are making this happen, are going to be at the conference. And in fact, let's hear from them around what is it that they're focused on, what is it that they're going to be looking for us to deliver very shortly.
My name is Shane Lee. I work for SaltStack, and I'm heading up the Windows working group. We've been working on an MSI installer for Windows, and we'll also be transitioning to a later version of Python, hopefully Python 3.7.
Hey SaltConf, my name is Pablo Suarez.
And this is Mihai.
We both work for SUSE Linux, and we are the captains of the SaltStack Testing and Release Working Group. Let me quickly introduce some of the topics that we are currently tackling. These are the general enhance of the Salt testing, improving performance and stability, architectural changes. There are a lot of topics where you can dive in. We really love and appreciate contributions, so please do not hesitate, just reach us and you can have a talk. Thank you.
Hey SaltConf 2019, it's Wes here, your macOS captain. Unfortunately, I can't make it this year. A little bummed out, but hey, what are you gonna do? But to talk a little bit more about the group, we've basically been working on making it more stable, a little more efficient, adding some more like super native macOS features that should really help management of those devices out. For the future, we're working on a proxy minion to manage MDM for like iOS, macOS, tvOS, you name it. Have a good one.
Hey everyone, my name is Gareth Greenaway. I work for SaltStack, and I've been working with Wesley Weston on the macOS working group. Our current focus and our focus for the future has been just generally improving the experience of using Salt on OS X. Some of that is included improving our testing infrastructure when it comes to the Mac, as well as pulling in a lot of the kind of custom Salt states and Salt modules that people have been using to get Salt running on OS X. If you're interested in hearing more about this, come find me at SaltConf.
Hi, I'm Megan Wilhite. I'm also known as Shell on GitHub, and I'm helping lead the SaltStack working group. What we've been working on and what we'll be working on in the future is a new proof of concept project called Heist. Very exciting. It's going to improve on SaltStack using the async IO library. Come check it out.
Ahoy, SaltConf attendees. My name is Nicholas Hughes, and I'm the Cloud Working Group Captain. We're excited about recent success using POP and ITEM to make Salt Cloud providers separate and pluggable. Have a great conference.
Hey, what are you doing on my boat?
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, our amazing captains and community. Thank you. So, as I said earlier, we'll have a chance to actually engage with the workgroup captains. You will find that later this afternoon, we have what's called the Salt Sprint. We have 8 tracks, whether you're new to Salt and you'll be merging your first PR, or whether you're interested in Windows or Mac or networking and so on and so forth, you'll be able to participate. Bring your ideas, bring your talent, and engage with the captains. Influence the direction, for that matter, of what we're going to be delivering. We also have a variety of sessions. I encourage you all to please attend many of those, depending on the topic. We'll be running training on some of the new projects, POP, Umbra, etc. I think we have 24 of those. You'll be able to get your certification. And of course, lastly and more importantly, SaltConf is really all about our ability to network and collaborate, meet each other. So please find one of our core team members, find an expert, schedule the time, engage, use this moment in time for us to get the most out of it. And of course, we have a chance in the end of the day to groove to our very own Saltines. And we'll also have a chance to recognize our contributors of the year and crown our community-voted champion of the year. We're also going to have a chance to meet our new community manager. She actually starts today. It's her first day, and she'll be delivering those awards. With that, team, I really am very appreciative for everybody who's attended here today. Thank you, and have an amazing and wonderful conference.